G'day all, Shell Strike here, hope you're doing well. Well, it's finally been released, the 1000400 patch. Very exciting. It was almost a 2 gigabyte download, so yeah, came down a couple of hours ago. Unfortunately, I had a power outage just before I did this video, so I'm a bit delayed in making this and getting it out, but one of the first things I noticed with the patch, there's a ton of changes, so I won't go through everything in this video. I won't be able to test everything, obviously, because it'll be all too much to do in one video, but one of the first things I did notice is that they've actually added the vehicle customization section ready for the new Viper Commando Warbond, which hasn't actually been released as yet. It should be just a little bit later tonight, probably another hour or two our time here in Australia. But they did add the vehicle customization section where you can actually add your patterns, which they'll be adding to that Warbond for the shuttle, the Hellpod, exosuit, the original exosuit, and the Emancipator exosuit. So it's going to be very exciting to add those patterns there. But yeah, some of the things that specifically I wanted to talk about, I won't go through every detail today, as I mentioned. I did a video today actually on the R36 Eruptor when it was pre-nerf. So I actually did a video of what it was like before it was nerfed, and I did say in that video, and I'll take this back now, that I didn't think that they were actually going to reverse it, but they have in fact reversed the changes or the nerfs that they did to the R36 Eruptor. So just some of the details on that basically are, they said that they've increased the total damage on the R36 Eruptor from 420 to 570 damage per shot, which is huge. So I'm going to be very interested in giving that weapon another go. So yeah, I think all these changes will sort of bring a lot of people back to the game, which is obviously one of the objectives I think that they've got. They want to keep the players happy. So yeah, they said one of the previous patches they removed the shrapnel, as I mentioned in my video today, and it made the ability to spike damage too much for a primary weapon. It said its theoretical max was over 9,000, and said it introduced some unexpected interactions. I would say things such as team killing and Helldiver killing when you shot the R36 Eruptor too close to enemies. Also, they said that adding back the shrapnel was quite tricky because of the low visibility, and they said that created situations where your fellow Helldivers died with very little feedback of what killed you. So to compensate for that, they've given the Eruptor 150 more damage per explosion, making it consistent without introducing new edge cases, and they said that the intent that this change will make the Eruptor viable both against medium and... Oh, okay. So they doesn't sound like they've actually added back the shrapnel, but they've just increased the damage per shot. So yeah, that's what they said there, that adding back the shrapnel was too tricky. So yeah, they've just increased the damage on that, but still, that's better than nothing, isn't it? But all right, so we'll go through some of the major changes in the patch notes. They've basically done a lot of changes to stratagems. So here we go, we've got changes to the rocket sentry, decreased spread, prioritise larger targets, increased target distance, decreased rocket salvo from 2 to 1, so better ammo economy. So same ammo but just shoots less, but increased range, and it prioritises larger targets. Decreased explosion armour penetration, so explosions can no longer damage heavy armoured enemies. Projectile still has enough AP to damage heavily armoured targets. Increased projectile damage from 200 to 300. Interesting. So yeah, some nice changes there to the rocket sentry. I'll be giving that a go again as well. The machine gun sentry, so they've reduced the cooldown from 180 to 120, so you can pop out more machine guns. And I actually said this, that it was a worse version of the Gatling sentry. It was even weaker too before they introduced the new ship module to improve the explosive sort of resilience of the machine gun. But yeah, so they've said here that it's going to be lowering the cooldown to make it more available and useful when changing position often. So increased durability from 0 to 80%. Sentry turrets in the game are a little too easily killed. So these are for all of the sentries. Increased durability from 0 to 80. They said they were too easily killed. Well, yep, I've said that in videos before too. By the bullets flying in a chaotic situation. So they've increased the durability factor of the turrets to make them more resistant to small arms fire. That's awesome. Heavy machine gun emplacement, increased rotation speed by 100%. Cool. Yeah, it was really slow to rotate, so that was very annoying. All right, the anti-personnel minefield, MD6, they've increased the explosion from 250 to 350, incendiary 150 to 210. So basically increased the damage on those. Orbital Gatling increased fire rate by 25%, and they've also increased the rounds per salvo from 30 to 60. Awesome. Increased armor penetration, can damage heavy armored enemies, decreased cooldown from 80 to 70. Orbital Gatling was not effective at dealing with any specific targets. Yep, I could have told you that, and in fact I did mention that again in one of all this stuff here in these patch notes. I've mentioned in a lot of my videos, not all of it, but a lot of it I have already previously mentioned. So they've made changes to the orbital precision strike, where they've decreased the cooldown from 100 to 90, decreased spawn call-in times from 4 seconds to 2, so that's going to be a welcome change. So they said the precision strike's original intent was to be used against spawners in fixed positions, but that hasn't stopped the community to use it against pretty much everything. Therefore, we want to make it a little easier to use against moving targets by lowering in the call-in time. Well, that's going to be awesome. We also lowered the cooldown time to make it available and to make it more competitive in comparison to Eagle Strategems. Well, I use the Precision Strike a lot, so that's good for me. In fact, I use it with Eagle Airstrike, and I use Orbital Precision and my two main stratagems. So the Airburst, they've changed the cooldown again from 120 to 100. To make it more attractive option, they lowered the cooldown. So yeah, Orbital Airburst. Not a lot of people use that either. Eagle 110 rocket pods. So they said that the change may look like a straight up nerf, but that's not the intention. They said that the rocket pods have improved targeting, increased projectile armor penetration, now does 100% damage to heavily armored enemies instead of 50, decreased projectile damage from 60 to 250 to compensate for improved targeting, decreased explosion armor penetration. Explosions can no longer damage heavily armored enemies. So yeah, I don't use the 110s much, rocket pods, but again, it's going to be interesting to try all this stuff, which I will do. Eagle Strafing Run, increased uses 3 to 4, increased armor pen, can now damage heavily armored enemies. So yep, they said that the Strafing Run was supposed to be a tool to effectively deal with smaller groups of medium armored enemies. To that end, they have increased its armor penetration to be able to reliably penetrate medium armored targets and soften up heavily armored enemies. We expect to have a tweak for this in the future. As with the Eagle rocket pods, we're very interested in our feedback. All right, so the GL-21 grenade launcher increased explosion damage from 350 to 400. So yeah, they said that the launcher is intended to be good at softening up hordes. While it's still good at destroying spawners, the explosion was a little too weak to reliably damage medium. Changes explosive damage should put it in better place when it comes to dealing with hordes. So nice, increase the damage for the grenade launcher. Heavy machine gun, increased damage, projectile damage 100 to 150, and increased damage against durable parts from 23 to 33. Oh, that's going to be good. Increased fire rate, decreased reload time from 7 to 5.5, and increased stagger strength. So yeah, that's going to be cool. MG43, decreased the reload time, increased max amount of magazines. Nice. A lot more info there on the MG43, but I won't read it all out. Increased projectile damage from 80 to 90, and projectile damage against durable body parts from 7.5 to 25. That's pretty cool. Yeah, because in the original game I actually used the MG43 as my main weapon, even as I leveled up along the way, because it was a really good machine gun. But yeah, so says the machine gun stratagem that used the 8mm rifle round were underperforming, and we have now increased the damage slightly. Okay, AR-23 Liberator, AMR-104 Stalwart, and AX-R-23 Guard Dog. They increased the projectile damage of all of those for durable body parts from 10 to 23, AR-23C Liberator Concussive, increased durable body parts from 23 to 35. BR-14 adjudicator, increased magazine capacity 25 to 30, and projectile damage against durable body parts from 10 to 20%. Adjudicator with relatively few rounds in each mag combined. Oh yeah, the adjudicator is terrible. Increased magazine capacity should make the weapon more forgiving of mistakes. AR-61 tenderizer, did a lot of changes to that one. Changed the damage from 60 to 95. Increased damage against durable body parts from 10 to 17. Increased ammo from 35 to 30. Decreased the number of magazine from 10 to 8. Increased dagger strength. Okay, Players 101 Purifier. Yep, that was one that I got with the was it Polar Patriots, but yeah, didn't really use because I didn't really like it that much. So they said they increased the projectile armor penetration to be the same as the explosion. Decreased explosion damage fall off. All right, CB9 explosive crossbow. Increased explosion and armor penetration, demolition strength, can destroy bugs, holes, and bots and fabricators. Nice. And added medium penetration tag. So that will have a bit more utility now, because again, that was one I used to test out when the Polar Patriots came out. But was it the Polar Patriots? I'd have to check my notes, but yeah. That's might be more viable now. And again, I just mentioned the R36 Eruptor. I mentioned at the beginning of the video. The R36 Diligence, they increased the durable body parts damage from 10 to 25. Updated recoil stance modifiers. They made changes to recoil to make them more consistent, and they also reward being prone more. So yeah, almost all of them will improve recoil. Only 2 have been made worse, only by 10%. So they're going to reward people going prone, or having different stances for the different weapons here. So some of the gameplay changes: they removed Operation Modifier for AA defenses, reducing the stratagem slot by 1. Disabled the Retrieve Essential Personnel Defend event mission for the time being. So they did that to give it more proper attention and care that it deserves, as it's deemed now not fun enough or performing as they want to. Super samples now spawn on difficulty 6. So the reason for that change is they feel their existence only on 7+ forced some players to play the game at a harder difficulty than they wanted to comfortably play on. So they do, however, still want a gating of them, but less punishing one. SEAF artillery stratagems no longer blocked by stratagem jammers or ion storms, and that's available after the mission timer ends, and the destroyer leaves close orbit. Enemies in melee range of the gates in the evacuate high value asset mission will now attack more consistently. Added the ability to chat from in-game menus. And mission loading screen. That's cool. Updated some first-person crosshairs. Social invite-only lobbies are now supported, and armors. So the new armor passive peak physique plus 50% melee damage plus 30% weapon ergonomics. So planets and hazards. So fire tornadoes had their pattern change, so they shouldn't feel like they actively respond to player movement and should move more randomly. So while a fire tornado storm takes place, enemy vision is reduced, player vision is unaffected. Cool. So they're going to be more random, basically, and in more variance in situations players find themselves, so they're less likely to pile up and overlap. Yeah, those fire tornadoes were hell, literally. Tremors, they've had their spawning tweaked, more random, and their epicenter size increased. So, yeah, so you should, where the enemies... should be more situations where the enemies away from the player get stunned, as well as reducing how consistently a player has a tremor occur next to them. Iron storms, added VFX for iron storms. Visibility. Yeah, visibility has been a bit annoying to me. It's very rare where I can find a planet now where it's nice and clear and sunny and daytime even. So although you can choose to do daytime, nighttime missions, but they said that a lot of the planets have had their fog amounts tweaked to be a bit less harsh and dense, provide less fatigue from constantly fighting on planets with bad visibility. We intend there to be foggy planets with worse visibility, but the balance was off. Desert planets such as Eruptor Prime, Chalk Bay, Hellmire and similar. Highlands planets such as Virilia 5, Matar Bay, Ashorn and similar. Artificial light sources have had their intensity rebalanced and reduced across the board to fix situations of lights completely blinding the player. Yay! Unexploded hell bombs will now explode immediately if hit with strong explosions or heavy weaponry. They will have the same delay if hit by small arms fire or weaker attacks. Vegetation. Vegetation that's large enough to slow the player now has extra function. When inside the vegetation, Helldivers will be harder to detect, reducing their detection range by enemies. This effect stacks with other detection and reduction effects such as nighttime, being crouched or prone, and things such as scout armor passive. Awesome. So if you're getting harassed by hordes, you may be able to run into a bush and make your your visibility even better, or detection range. That's going to be awesome. Enemies, acid effect. Acid effect applied by hunters. Bug mines now allows you to sprint while under the effect. Yay! And slows you by 30% instead of 50. That is awesome. Duration has been increased from 3 to 4 seconds. Okay. Well, there's a bit of a trade-off there, but I don't mind that. That sounds like a good change. So, change is intended to be less punishing for players while slowed while fighting the Terminids. So yeah, this allows us to use it in more places without making the experience very punishing. For example, bile spewers. Armored enemy balances. So they've basically toned down the amount of heavily armored enemies like Bile Titans charges on higher difficulties. Instead, spawn more hordes of smaller enemies. Difference should be quite noticeable. The amount should at least be 30% less than before during bug breaches. We have also toned down slightly how many hulks that spawn for the automatons. Their intent is to ease up on the demand for anti-tank weapons by having more of other enemies give better incentive for the group to bring stratagems and weapons to take care of hordes. Awesome. Yeah, that's one of the changes that everyone has been talking about, reducing the heavy armored spawns, because I play on Helldive most of the time now, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. But that'll be a welcome change. Patrol spawning is now back to how it worked before in 1.0000300 with some slight tweaks so that levels are less empty if you are far away from important locations with enemy presence. That sounds fantastic. Stunning, medium and large sized enemies now don't get stunned as easy. This will not affect stratagems that stun and will mostly just affect how easily the pummeler can stun larger enemies. Terminids, bile spewers and nursing spewers. So they'll now get slowed if they lose their legs, and spewer puke now applies the acid effect. Spewer puke can now only damage Helldivers up to 4 times per second, and the Helldiver cannot take damage multiple times from the same projectile. This should reduce instances where you are instantly killed by it. Yay! Bile Titan head is slightly less durable against weaker anti-tank weapons. It's not a large change and will mostly matter for weapons like the railgun. The Bile Titan's puke can now only damage the Helldiver 4 times per second, and the Helldiver cannot take damage multiple times from the same projectile. The damage is still very deadly, so running through their puke is not recommended. Their puke now also has a bigger spread. Oh, great. Charger Behemoth is now joining the battle on higher difficulties. It can now also take more damage than before. This enables us to spawn fewer charges but retain the difficulty. Oh, great. Okay. So charges will now only show bleed out effects from the body if the bleed out state has started. It can still show bleed out effects from the mouth without having started the bleed out state. So automaton changes. Hulk Scorcher, Hulk Flamethrower now does less damage. Again, Helldiver cannot be damaged more than 4 times per second. So similar changes to the automatons. The Galactic War, introducing supply lines and origins of attack. So supply lines were previously not shown on the Galactic War map to reduce clutter and improve readability, but based on feedback from the community, they've implemented them now. So that's going to be interesting to see the supply lines. So yeah, in general, readability while still exposing the system on players' games. So you'll also now be able to see which planet an attack is originating from, so potentially allowing for the community to stop the attack as its source. We have updated visuals in the sector and planet info pop-ups. Okay, well, let's have a look at that. I haven't had a look at the Galactic Map yet. Oh. Yep. Oh, yep, that's our normal Ah, there we go. Supply lines. And you can now see where the attack's coming from, yeah. Very nice, very nice. And of course it'll be the same for the bugs. So there we go. That's going to help a lot, yeah, for people to figure out where attacks are coming from. Alright, so some of the fixes. Spear targeting reworked, now should function better. Heat and cold environments will now affect the quasar cannon reload speed and show correctly in the HUD. Reload speed for cold planets minus 2.5 seconds, hot planets plus 2.5. Okay, so there's a ton of fixes which I won't go through. What I'll do is I'll link the fixes in the description so you can go through those yourself. I won't bore you with all of those. You can easily go through those and read them only. I guess the big thing was me interpreting the changes to the weapons and stratagems and gameplay, which I've just gone through. So yeah, I'm very excited for this patch. There are still a lot of known issues which they've got listed there as well. But yeah, finally update 1.0000400 has been released. I hope everybody was looking forward to this patch as much as I was, and that we all get sort of reinvigorated for the game, because yeah, I know that the player base has been has been decreasing quite a bit, but I've been trying to still get onto the game quite regularly. You know, obviously less than what I was when I first started playing, but I really do appreciate everyone as always watching these videos, and I would appreciate it if you could hit that like and subscribe. And as always, we'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye for now.